All right, let's see how close to 50 I can get. Man, this thing is killing me, I'm telling you. Yep, checkmate, Charlie. I'm going to take this queen here, I'm going to take this pawn here, and you're dead right there. There's another checkmate. Oh, you're asking for it. The pawn on h2 is pinned. That's checkmate. Alrighty, now what? Look at this nasty move. Knight captures knight. He takes my queen. I get his queen with check. That's the key. Crunch with check. And I thank you for the extra bishop. Alright, we're going to get this guy on f1 with the x-ray through f2, driving him off and hitting f1. Killer. I'm going to eat this guy's queen. Chop, chop, x-ray attack. It was so bad the machine just quit. Checkmate. Bishop and rook on h7. Well, we got, this is a good one. You can't, this is probably an opening trap. I don't know this opening name. It's bizarre, just, you know, kind of generic hedgehog style d6 e6 knight knight c6 defense. The problem with taking the c4 poisoned pawn here, you know, when he played like d4, boom, is this check, and this knight would normally go to c6, but it's not possible from that position. Look at this, you're 2 rooks ahead, you get checkmated. Don't be greedy. F1 again. As my dad would say, when your opponent makes a move, this was his great phrase, and man, this is an old one, dude. This is from the earliest days of chess that he taught me. Try to ask yourself, what is he doing with this move? And it was really funny because my dad was not a great player in chess. He loved to play chess. He learned, you know, later on in life, you know, after he was already an adult. After he learned to play chess from my mom after he moved to America from India. So, that's what he always told me. He wasn't really good at figuring it out all the time. But he knew that that was the correct phrase to describe what you needed to do. And every time you can describe, you can figure out, what is this guy doing to me? Like, what does this move do? When you figure this question out, you're a winner. It's just that simple. It's not complicated. Sometimes figuring out what this guy's doing is complicated, but the methodology that my dad taught me, and I was a little kid, you know, I started learning chess when I was like maybe 6.5 or 7, something like that. I don't know specifically the exact age. I know where I lived, and I know how old I was when I lived there. So I want to say I was probably 7 when he first started teaching me chess. He used to beat the crud out of me because, come on, he's an adult and I was a kid. So this one is, he's trying to defend f7. Well, how many dudes do we have on f7? You got to be careful. This knight is pinned by his queen. We do have 1, 2, 3 guys there, but the order of attack means the knight doesn't move soon because we lose a queen. So we got 3 dudes against 1, 2 defenders. 3 versus 2 is a win. It isn't rocket science. And you're checkmated, buddy. So that was the lesson. That was the key lesson that my dad taught. And you know, like I said, my dad was a good solid player, not a great player. He was a, you know, he was a 1500 player. Okay, and he got close to 1600 a couple of times. So he was not a great player. But that piece of advice is great player advice because it works at every level, all the way up to the world championship level. It literally works at every level of the game. So that's the most important thing, perhaps, that my dad taught me about chess, was if you figure out what the guy's doing, you're basically in command of the game. You know, unless it's after the fact when he's mopping you up as he's about to checkmate you. By then, it doesn't matter. The key thing is you have to figure this out in advance, okay? And then, like, on the other side of that would be, well, what is he doing with his moves is, okay, you got to know that, and then you have to go, well, what do I have to do that counters what his goal is? So it's a double-edged sword. You've got to be able to know both sides, both edges of the sword. It's like this one is a kickback followed by an F8. So when you see my other videos, when I'm doing like the problem solvings, is like, you know, when I'm figuring out the defensive moves for the opponent, that comes from my dad's advice. What is he trying to do? That's literally the phrase. He goes, what is he trying to do to me? That's his phrase. So this one, knight to here, rook to here, knight takes rook, oh, we're losing. No, we're not. We got another rook. Just put another one right there. So that's an old joke. It's like, I'll make another one just like you. I made you, and it's like, I'll make another one that looks just like you. It was a classic. Anyway, so that's one of the ways you get good in chess, is to figure out what this guy is doing. Man, now see, sometimes, like this one is not obvious. Now, and the answer is like, this guy is, he just missed checkmate, okay? I hope, no, sorry, my mistake. He's setting me up to checkmate me. Rook to F6 is checkmate, okay? This is my dad's advice right there in front of your face. What does rook to E7 do? It threatens to checkmate me. There you go. Now, I answer the question that my dad would have posed. Now, what am I going to do about it? That's a good question. I'm not too sure. The only check that I see is H4 check. Oh, dude, that's nasty. Oh, it's nasty. Look at this. H4 check. See, now here's the thing. Asking the right question is what makes me find the moves, because what is he trying to do to me? That's my father's question, right? Well, he's going to checkmate me. So now I realize that since rook to F6 is literally unstoppable by any outside force, okay, I can play bishop to E6, he takes it, and then checkmates me the next move. But if I stop checking him, I'm checkmated. So all I can do is check him. The only move I had to check is what? Rook takes F3 check or H4 check. Well, rook takes F3 just loses. You know, king takes free rook and you lose, okay? Because we're dead. But not really. We could check him with G4 and then go to G5, but we're going to get mated eventually. So H4 check. He's forced to do one move, which my rule says if he's got only one legal move that's good, you're winning. H4 check, king to H3. If you see the move, congratulations. If you don't see the move, I'm going to show it to you, and it's a killer. Man, it's awesome. Logic said that was the only move because it was check. Again, I got to check him. All you have to do is have the guts to play, what if rook takes F3 check, and you see that this opens up for checkmate. So logic said I must check him or lose. So at that point, I only had rook F3, rook takes F3 check. It was the only move I had. It doesn't take Sherlock Holmes to find this move that's the only thing you can do that doesn't get checkmated. Hey, look, this guy's getting checkmated. That move doesn't do anything. I don't know. That one just lets me checkmate him. All right? That's what that move does. What does knight G7 do? It lets me checkmate him in 2. Okay. Works for me. So, in the future, when you use my dad's secret phrase in your own games, what is he doing? And you do it and you win. You could thank my father. He's the one who made me, you know, on the path to get good. And that's really that in chess, I would say that was his ultimate lesson. Now there was a lot of other lessons that were good, that I had when we played a lot of our matches. This one is, I'm gonna bishop check this guy, trying to mess with him, and then I'm gonna eat this rook with this because of discovered attack. This is not discovered check; it's discovered attack with a check at the end. Slightly different. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna take his rook, but he'll take my bishop. So I take him check first. This is in between move, okay? So we had a discovered attack, and since it was a check, we were able to play the in-between move of bishop takes bishop check, then eat the rook. Just winning a free rook. And you know me, I've said it before, I'm the kind of guy that'll take a free rook. So, now, you know, revert back my father's advice. What's he trying to do? He's trying to take my queen. It's fairly obvious in this one. Now, my dad's advice is really important, more so in games where it's not obvious, where there's not an obvious pawn captures queen threat. It's when you do that correctly that you go, oh, this guy was on to something. So my dad was really on to something when I don't know where he got this, where he got the awareness to ask that question. But it is to me the, like, it has to be like near the top of Mount Everest of chess, you know, advice. So it looks to me like just take his knight. I mean, you know, I don't know. I mean, if that isn't the move, I don't know what is. And it was the move, but I'm like, okay. This is very bizarre. What did he just take? Bishop captures f6. Okay, I guess that makes sense. Queen takes bishop is not the right move. The right move is bishop takes bishop check, because of the check. It's the in-between move. If we take this bishop, he's going to play either pawn takes or bishop takes. Either one is strong. So queen takes bishop is losing. Well, it's not losing. It's throwing away the opportunity to play the in-between move of bishop takes bishop check, followed by queen takes bishop, and I'm a knight ahead. So sometimes we say it's losing. It wasn't losing. It was just, you know, not cashing in the opportunity that you have. Now, we have here the sequence of the queen is potentially overloaded, meaning the queen is guarding two pieces, the rook and the bishop. Now, the bishop also has another guardian, which is the pawn. And you see that's fairly obvious. But what happens here is that we're not going to be able to, this is not an example of removal of defender. Removal of defender would be like, imagine that b2 pawn is somewhere else, b3, b4, doesn't matter. Then we'd play rook takes bishop, and then the overload of the queen would force the queen to take the rook, and then we take his rook. Okay, so we're going to win a piece by removing the defender, because that main defender, or the only defender, is trying to do two jobs, and we have two different pieces attacking two other pieces, and that queen can only do one job. It can only protect one piece at a time, because it can only move, you know, one move at a time. But we're going to get this guy. It's not exactly that kind of deflection of the defense because it's overloaded, but it is in the context of what we're going to do is rip this bishop and make way to use the pawn to remove the defender of the rook. So we're going to do removal of defender, not in the most obvious way of rook takes bishop, queen captures rook, queen captures rook. But we're going to rook takes bishop, pawn captures, the correct move, and now d7. And if he doesn't take it, I'm going to queen it. He'll have to take it. That's the thing. So I looked at it as a removal of defender, and then saw that there was removal of defender, but different than you would normally expect. That was the deal. So he got out, he got out of the pawn attack. That was fairly obvious. So, oh, look here. We got this guy. This is an easy one. Well, I say easy one. The most obvious move, hopefully to you guys, is knight captures knight. He just plays pawn takes knight. Okay, that's cool. And it's like, wow, if I could move my knight, I get a discover attack on his queen. And it doesn't go anywhere good because he would just play queen takes queen. So instead of playing knight takes knight, pawn captures on d5, and then knight takes knight, for example, because he's going to play queen takes queen. What if we reverse the order of the moves? So instead of knight takes d5, I want to play knight takes a6. Look what happens. You probably see it as soon as I do it. So by reversing the order of moves, thank you, that's a free knight. Okay, even better, that's a free queen. I'll take it. You know I will. Okay. This one jumped off the page at me. What is he doing? Use my dad's killer phrase, all right? This is the secret of the game that my dad gave to me. I'm giving it to you. He's getting a knight. He's getting a queen out of the knight attack, right? And now look where his king and queen are. Okay. Could I play knight to f6 and win that queen because it's check? If you said no, you're correct. If you said yes, you're also correct. The no answer is slightly more correct. The yes answer is correct under special conditions. So, this was a secret question, that I gave as a trick question. The trick is not that you're always wrong, but you are always going to be right. So it's yes, you can do it, or no, you can't do it. No, I can't do it right now. But if I destroy that knight, then I could play knight f6 check, right? Hopefully every one of you guys said yes to that question. But there's some genius out there that I don't know who this guy is, but trust me, he's on to this. He's like, no, you can't do this because if you take his knight, he'll kill your knight and you can't play knight f6 check. He's correct. But guess what? Let's look at this. So I want to play knight to f6 check. We all do because that's, hey, my dad's favorite was to fork king and queen. Let's just be honest. So that was my dad's favorite move, trust me, in chess. It's one of my favorites. It's one of your favorites too. Let's be honest, okay? So he would go, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. And, he's like, oh, I can't do that. It's like, yeah, well, I can take this guy's knight, and if he takes my bishop takes rook, then I can fork his queen. All right? But the smart guy back over there that I can't tell you who it is for obvious reasons. He's like, no. Rook takes knight, good move. Pawn takes knight, better move. He's got me on that one, but I go, okay, that's fine. I can win in many ways. I don't have to just fork king and queen. So what we're doing is we're going to use the threat of the king and queen knight fork to force his hand, and we're going to take advantage of the position that occurs after that. Watch. Rook takes knight is correct. Oh, he did take it. Really? He should have played pawn takes, but if he does, rook takes knight check, and we're winning. Okay. This is not the move for me. This is the move for my dad. Knight f6 check, forking you, and then knight takes queen check. Not only was it taking queen, it was taking queen check. All right. Now, here we have a killer. I don't even know what. See, this is not. I'm going to, let's just use my dad's question. What is he doing with bishop to c4? My answer is I really don't know what he was doing, but I know what he's doing. From his perspective, I have no clue. But from my perspective, he's letting us win. And I'm okay with that. Okay, so look at this. And we have a killer fork, which is queen to d4 check. That forks the bishop and the rook and the king. That is a monster fork. Problem is, he's got a knight there that will take our queen if we go queen to d4 check, which you guys all see. This is fairly basic stuff. So how do we make this move work? I know that guy said it again. Take the knight. Okay, yes. So let's say we play bishop takes knight. Well, this guy's trying to win. He said, well, if I take with the rook, I see he's going to fork me on d4 with the queen, which I am going to do that because, you know, that's my kind of game. But he says, well, that's losing for white. I don't want to play rook takes knight. What about queen takes knight attacking that rook on a8? Oh, now he's on to something. So that's a good question. So we play bishop takes knight, queen takes bishop, queen to d4 check. He's going to play, he's not going to move his queen there. Let's just say the safest move, the most natural defensive move when you're checked like that is king h1. Okay? So king h1 is the most natural and clearly the best move because it just, there's nothing that could check him. All right? Now the problem is, what do we do? Do we take the rook or do we take the bishop? If you say take the rook, raise your hand. And if you say take the bishop, raise your hand. You can only raise your hand once. You can't raise your hand twice for taking both. That doesn't work. Okay. Now, if you raise your hand for taking the rook, I'm going to tell you that the idea is good, but it's wrong. And all you guys who were smiling said, ah ha ha, I said take the bishop. Well, that's wrong too. Okay? But, again, the idea is good. The execution is just not in the right time. And that's the key. Sometimes your ideas can be good, like queen takes rook on a1 or queen takes bishop. Those are both terrific ideas. But the timing is what separates the men from the boys. So, you had two terrific ideas. All right? The thing is, we've got to stop queen takes a8. We don't want to lose our rook in the corner. So, the secret of this position is, can we win a piece? The answer is yes. And it starts with bishop takes knight. He's going to play queen takes bishop because that's the move that threatens to take our rook. Which would, if we take his rook, he takes our rook, we're even. If we take bishop, he takes our rook, we're losing. But what if we stop him? Can we put a piece in the way of him taking our rook? If you don't see it now, I'm going to play the moves so you can get to the position, and then I'm going to ask it again. Bishop captures knight. Queen to d4 check. Told you, king h1 is the right move. Can we put a piece on the diagonal between f3 and a8 that stops him from taking our rook? I know you guys have got to see the move. The answer is yes. We can put this knight, and the reason we want to put this knight there is this one's already developed. Let's get this one off the back rank and connect the rooks. What? That's baloney. That absolutely was winning. Okay. He's just losing again. Well, yeah, it's pretty terrible. He's dust. Yeah, good. I'll just take it. It doesn't matter when he sticks the bishop in front of your queen when his only defender, well, when the first defender that can take it is the queen. He threatened my queen with his bishop, and my queen and bishop traded themselves for his queen and his bishop. It was even. No biggie. Oh, you're just beyond doomed over here, buddy. The question, you know, this is an obvious rook captures a3 check. The only question is which one finishes him. I guess it doesn't really matter. They're both the same. Rook takes a3 check. Pawn takes a3. Rook takes a3 check. King b1. Queen to a2 check. You lose. Okay, whatever, dude. Same story. Same story. Hey. Okay. Check. Queen takes. That doesn't do anything. Ah. We have... Well, that doesn't do anything either. Bishop to here. Queen to there. Bishop checks. And he's toast. Okay. Bishop to here. Tomato, tomato. Well... The obvious move, there are two obvious moves, King F3, King F1. King F1, Queen D3 check. The problem with that is King to here, check, King to here. Can he stop us from queening? The answer is not really. He can put that queen on E4, we'll take it, and then queen. Or he can put his queen to guard the 8th rank, and then we queen and then take his queen. So again, King F1 is obvious. Queen D3 check, obvious and strong. King G1. Queen takes D4 check. King to H1. There's no more checks for him. Well, none that stop the queen. Okay, you can play queen to G1 check. King takes queen and it's game over. So we get to H1. This is the thing. When you see this, queen is going to be attacking because queens are just awesome at these attacks. We need to get to behind the pawn shield, and that means we can't go to F2. That's illegal. King to F3 doesn't get it. He'll check us, do this, check us again. We can't do it. So here, whatever. It's the same difference. Yeah, good luck with that. So now he's going to stop us from queening, but we're going to eat his queen, and it's over. The rook will mop up those guys, no question. All right, now, what to do? Well, it looks like rook takes rook. Check. King takes rook. Bishop to H6 check. I would like to play rook takes rook, king to here, queen to H8, but he goes knight to G8, and then this whole thing is just evaporated. So watch this. This bishop cannot be blocked. Once you see that, it's over for him. And we eat this rook, and if he checks us, we escape behind our shield of pawns. So, that's very strong. Now, interesting question. Well, what you see, bishops of opposite colors, means that my rule is when you have bishops of opposite colors, you're normally going to win by playing a piece to the square of your attacking bishop. So, a black square. That's the rule. Well, you know the funny thing about making rules like this, there's always that one exception to the rule. That I think that this is it. What I see here is that bishop is pinned. It's not absolutely pinned. An absolute pin means that the bishop is pinned to the king, for example. He's absolutely pinned because it's illegal for him to move. Now, against the queen, you can nearly absolutely pin him by the point of if he moves the bishop, then he loses his queen. It's not absolute, but it's close because it's the same thing. You're going to lose the game. So But this is only pinned if we have two attackers potentially lined up on this queen. And right now we only have one, which is our queen. So this is what is known as the X-ray attack. The X-ray attack goes through the bishop like an X-ray. It goes through the bishop and hits the queen. Or in some cases, all the way to the back rank, hitting the rook. Well, we're not hitting this one. We're hitting the first thing behind the pinned item. So to X-ray this queen, we need to put this rook over here on this line, don't we? Because I'm just going to take your queen. And I'm just going to take this rook. And now, I won a piece. But that was by recognizing a potential X-ray attack. Okie dokie. So we're relatively safe. He cannot. Well, he can't attack us successfully. We have too much defense on our king. Those two rooks guarding the G2 pawn, and his pieces are not lined up to exploit G1, H1, or G3, which is really a weak squares around our king. So it looks like what we have is check on rook takes pawn, check. And, well, let me give you a different idea. If we played rook to h6, we're threatening to checkmate him on h8, right? That's fairly obvious. Now, this guy is obviously a good player. Number one, always assume your opponent is a good player. That way, you expect him to find good moves and not play like a dummy. So, rook to h6, threatening checkmate on h8. Haha. King to f8 stops that, because now you got to move your rook over here, which isn't terrible. It's actually pretty good. That's actually really strong. It's so strong, I like it. Now he could stop that to a degree by playing rook to f2. So instead of trying to go with queen to, if you went, okay, let's look at this. If I go rook to h6, threatening checkmate, he has to defend it on one of these two squares. f8 being the obvious one, because our rook's not attacking that. We have nothing attacking f8. So rook h6, if he goes queen to b8 to stop the checkmate, I'm sorry, we go rook to h6, he goes king to f8 attacking a rook. We go, okay, hey, let's move this rook to a7, again threatening rook to h8 checkmate. Now he could stop this checkmate by playing king to g8 or rook to f8. Either one of those will stop it. And he's winning. He's got a queen versus our rook. He's winning this. So the key thing is, I want to check him with taking this pawn, and I'll tell you why. It's not because I'm greedy, although I am greedy in chess. I like to take your free pawn, and you know that's true. All right, but when I'm not really taking this pawn for the pawn, I'm taking this pawn to have access to this d6 square, in case if I go rook takes e6 check, and he goes king to here to d8, then I go rook to d6 check, and now my rook is anchored defensively. Or if I check him and he goes king to here, I'm going to have to move a different one, but I'm eventually going to play rook to f6 check. Oh, actually, that's terrible. Taking that pawn is dumb, because I don't need to do that. You know what I can do? I can just checkmate him directly. Right? No, almost. That's a toughie, man. Rook to g8 check. King. See, king to e7 gets checkmated. Or king to f7 gets checkmated. King to d7 does not get checkmated. If he goes king to d7, I go rook on 6 to g7 check. He goes king to c6. And then I can play rook to c8 check, and I think he has to go to the b file, and I'm going to eat his queen. So that's what I'm looking. You got to look at all these things, these brute force attacks. Anchoring the rook here or here really doesn't do anything because I can't checkmate him with a rook on f6. I got to checkmate him on a 7th rank and the 8th rank. So go check here. This is checkmate. This is checkmate. This is not checkmate. So king to d7 is his best move, obviously. Check, king d7. Rook checks here. This is illegal. This is illegal. One move. King c6. Now, this rook is now on g7. The other rook is on g8. So I come here, rook to c8, check. Can't go to the 7th rank. Can't go here. He's already here. He's got to go here or here, and I get his queen. Watch. This one is not obvious. You got to keep looking. Now I got you. Okay. Seems pretty simple. King takes pawn. Now I go here. This is the two pawns are connected. The king, once you move once the black king no longer blocks the forward pawn, the white king can never take the rear pawn because this one has a clear run to score. This one's going to go here, cutting him off. Easy win. Stay in the square, which I am. If he moves his pawn, I'm going to kill it. That simple. Ha, this is easy. Now, this is a real easy one. For those of you who know, Philidor comes to mind. And if you don't know what I mean when I say Philidor, today will be the last time you do not know what this means. The move here, knight to f7, sorry, knight to f2 check. Hey, no one's perfect. So knight to f2 check. If he takes my knight with his rook, rook takes knight, he gets checkmated, right? Rook to c1, check. He plays rook to d1, rook captures d1, check. Rook to f1, rook takes f1, checkmate. Okay, so he doesn't take it. He goes, well, nah, king to g1. Then we Philidor made him. Okay. Let me tell you, here's the Philidor mate. If you don't know it. Now, most of you guys probably know this, but there's a few people that are not going to know this. I got to show it to them. If he goes king to here, in the 1700s, Philidor was the best player in the world. He discovered this combination. Knight to h3, double check, because of the queen. King goes to the corner, only legal move because it's double check. You have to move out of double check because you got two pieces checking you. The knight on h3, the queen on b6. You can't take the queen, you can't take the knight. Man, it's awesome. So knight to h3, double check. King into the corner. The secret move of the Philidor mate is queen to g1 check. You're giving away your queen. Rook captures queen. Knight goes to f2, smothered mate. The rook is blocking the king's motion. This is known as the Philidor mate. When this video is over, get your pieces out, back it up, come back to this. You'll see the number 32 on the screen. When you see the number 32, look at this and then run through what I've just spoken to you on your own. All you need to do is just put the pieces in this, put a queen on b6, fill in the rest of these 9 squares, which is king, rook, 2 pawns, and a pawn. That's all you need to see the Philidor mate in action. Okay? It's awesome. So, he took it, but like I said, if he takes it, we just checkmate him. The basic way. Rook takes d1, rook takes f1. That's not exciting at all. That's terrible. Okay, now here's a good one. Check this out. We can go, well, you have really 2 good moves. Rook to d1 is pretty good. Doesn't work. He'd play rook takes b4. Rook to d1 cuts the king off. Okay, keeps the king from blocking our pawn. But rook to d1, rook takes b4. c7, rook to c4. You know the rule. If you don't, you're new to these problems. The rooks are best at stopping pawns from behind. So that's why I come up with rook to c4. This is one of those 99% plus moves of rook behind the pawn. So rook to d1 fails. But we could play rook to e1 check. You're like, well, that's stupid. He's just going to go into d8. Well, yeah, I guess that's true. But that's the thing we can do. Rook to d1. I'm sorry, rook to e1 check. Now, what does this do? He goes king to d8. You know, seems kind of stupid now that I think about it. I need to check him and go there. The move that I would really like to play is rook to a5. But that's not happening. There's another possibility of just takes him 3 moves to attack our pawn. 1, 2, 3. He gets to that square first, unfortunately. Takes us 1, 2, 3, 4 moves to defend our B pawn. Bogus. Oh. Well. I see what we can do. We can play rook to c1. Rooks either offensively or defensively belong behind the pawn. So, since black's move would be, he'd like to play rook to c4 to get behind it, I'd like to play rook to c1 and get behind my own pawn and push it forward. So if I go rook c1, the only move that stops the queen, king d8. I push this check, king to c8. Then, well, I can do that. Doesn't really do any. Oh, rook to c4. Good question. Rook to c4. He plays a5, which I don't like. There's another possibility. We can try to set up a position where we have 2 pawns on the 6th rank versus his rook. So, rook to c1 is correct, but c7 is not the move we want to play. So I'm looking at this. Rook to c1, king to d8, the smart move. Rook to c4, guarding. He can't take this pawn. Rook c1, rook takes pawn, c7, and that's a queen. There's nothing he can do. Literally, he's doomed. All right? He can actually stop it, but he's going to have to play like rook to b1 and give up his rook to stop it. So when I say he can't stop it, that means he can't stop it to advantage. He can give away the house, and that's fine. That's part of the deal. The point is this. Rook c1, king d8 to try and stop this with the king. Rook to c4. If he plays a5, b5. The point is that he would take our rook. Oh, it doesn't work. b6 doesn't work. It's too slow. We cannot cash this. Just trying to set up that deal, and that deal is not working. Check. If he plays a5, we can go c7. Check, king to c8. Nope, that doesn't work either. Man, it's a killer. So, I'm thinking, let's look at king f2, king d8, king e3, king to c7, which is bogus. I don't like this at all. There's got to be a trick move that we can play that's just really awesome. But so far I am missing it. Oh. Well, I'm looking at this rook e1 check again, king to d8, rook to e7. But so what? No, that doesn't work. Rook to e4. Again, that doesn't work. King to d8 is really annoying. Man, this is a nasty problem. Okay. What if we just played b5? That can't be right, right? Or can it? I don't know. b5, a takes b5, rook takes b5. But, you know, I don't see how you win this. He's going to play rook to c4. And then he's going to double team my pawn so fast it'll make your head spin. So, b5, a takes b5, rook takes b5, rook to c4. We have rook to b8 check, king to e7, rook to b7 check, king to d6 on our c6 pawn that we can't defend really. But we could play rook captures g7. He takes it, and then we're going to take the h7 pawn. I don't think this rook and two pawns is necessarily a win. It must be, otherwise they wouldn't stick it here. That's all I can see. Well, that's not it. It beats me, man. Let's see. What did I do? I'm sure I saw the move. That doesn't work. Yeah. Oh, idiot. I thought that didn't work. Because he's going to go rook c4. Yeah. Durr. Mental block. It happens. The mental block happens. And it's happened to grandmasters that are better than you or I will ever be. There it happened to me right in front of your face. Why does it matter which rook I take it with? It doesn't. It's exactly the same. It's rook takes pawn check. There is no difference. Okay, I guess there is a difference because if he goes to b1, rook to a1 check. Whoops, my bad. So they didn't like my move of queen to d4 check and then knight to c6. Really? Idiot. Oh. All you guys who said queen takes bishop, you are correct. Because when he takes my rook, I take his rook and checkmate him. Stupid. I blew that. Ugh. I don't know how I missed that. It happens, and you saw it. It happened twice. I can't believe it happened. Not once, but twice. Carudzilla. Yeah, like I said, I don't think when, you know, I played b5, a takes b5, rook takes b5, king e7, rook check, king d6, rook takes pawn. Even if I won this pawn, I don't think these two pawns win. Rook and these two pawns against king and rook is a win. I think it's a theoretical draw. Now, it's a super difficult, you know, draw, but it is drawable. So I didn't think that was the way to go. And you know, like I said, my original idea was the correct idea of rook to d1. That was the very first thing I saw. I thought, well, he's going to take my pawn, c7, you go c4. I just didn't see that my pawn was defending d8. I knew there was a trick there. I knew I was looking for a trick, and I still didn't see the trick. Again, no one is perfect. That's why when you win the trophy for winning the tournament, it's a big deal. This is the kind of position that shows you how big of a deal it is. Someone's going to do that, and they're going to win the trophy. They'll win the tournament, okay? And I've done that myself many times. You can't make this mistake. and win the tournament. That's the deal. So when the guy who wins first place, he really kicked butt, because there's 100 mistakes you can make in a game at any time. And the goal when you play chess to win is, we'd all love to play the brilliant move when the opportunity presents itself, which is good. But the reality of chess is not the brilliant move that you see. It's avoiding the mistakes, sidestepping the landmines. Anticipating them and then sidestepping them gets you more victories than playing some, magnificent sacrifice, which is, super rare. You cash in on technique and studying and avoiding mistakes. Those are the three things that stand out when you win a tournament. Is that when you do this, you go, I avoided mistakes. I had studied these positions, whatever, that you end up winning games. Or that you'll go, okay, it's my study helped me win those games, and my technical excellence to avoid those mistakes. Those are the three dominant factors for the tournament winner. Like almost every tournament. Every once in a while, some guy plays a move that's like, oh man, that's one of the greatest moves I've ever seen. Okay, that does happen from time to time. But it's the other three that are just, that's how you cash. When you watch your favorite grandmasters play, they're cashing on technique, preparation. That's what they're doing, and avoiding mistakes. So really it's technique, avoiding the mistakes, and preparation, which is your homework, learning these different end games, etc., studying your openings. Preparation has it's a very wide definition. So that's the deal. So a lot of good problems here. A couple of good lessons, man. Right there, the two of the three that I missed were just, oh man. Hey, guess what? It happens. Tomorrow's another day, and I'll be awesome tomorrow. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. You know what to do. I'll talk to you later.